Sanbonani, Dumelang. Let me introduce myself as Tsepo Mokoena, founder and executive chairman of Moving Ahead Development Agency, MADA. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to the Gauteng Social Development 3rd Annual Virtual Memorial Lecture against the killing of young women and children. The 2020 lecture is in celebration of the Women's Month. I would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to honor my invitation and preside as speakers and also deliver the memorial lecture against the killing of women and children. It is with special excitement that I'm pleased to welcome Gauteng MEC for Social Development, Honorable Dr. Nomathemba Mokheti, who will deliver the opening address.
Thank you very much, Program Director. To our viewers at home, while in the month of August we celebrate the progress that women have made over the centuries and much has been attained, we are sadly reminded that we have yet to attain the full aspirations of the generation of Mama Gertrude Shope, Mama Victoria Mngeke, and Mama Charlotte Maxeke. Gender-based violence is one such a reminder that more work still needs to be done to fully attain a just society for women. We are reminded today of the senseless murders of Tshegofatso Pule and her unborn baby, Renacia Naledi Pangindao, Lindelwa Penny, Leandre Jechels, Nomfazi Bada, Megan Kramer, and Rabo Mokoena. These matters should be enough to move us to act. It is in this regard that Gauteng Department of Social Development and its partners have heard the call to act. Tsepo Mokoena, who is the uncle of Karabo Mokoena, heeded such a call when he founded Moving Ahead Development Agency, abbreviated as MADA, in memory of Karabo Mokoena and other victims of GBV. MADA is an advocacy organization against GBV and femicide. In 2018, MADA hosted the memorial lecture for the late Ms. Karabo Mokoena. Social Development is pleased to partner with MADA on its critical projects of bringing awareness on issues of GBV and femicide. It is a moral and strategic responsibility of the social development that victims of GBV are not forgotten. Events such as this memorial lecture, one of important vehicle for keeping the memories of GBV victims alive while advocating for change. We also appreciate the important role played by other NPOs, progressive men out there, and women GBV survivors and activists who dedicated their time and lives in ensuring this GBV scourge is rooted out. In our engagement with communities, there has been concerns raised about perpetrators being given bail easily, cases dragging for years, cases being withdrawn for further investigations, and never going back to the court. We are focusing on justice this year. In our view, that for us to win the war against the scourge of GBV in our country, all government forces need to unite and win the confidence of our society. Patriarchy is a necessary condition for GBV and femicide to thrive. It deprives men, women, and children alike of true and complete human dignity. Equally, dismantling patriarchy should not mean reversal of gender roles, especially in a society where focus is mainly on empowering of girls, and this is an inadequate empowerment and investment in young boys in respect of social, emotional, mental, and personal development. It is therefore important to empower a child to learn to respect human rights and the rights of women and girls. South African women are constantly exposed to violation of their human rights. Unfortunately, this is done by their intimate partners or people that were once intimate with. This problem cuts across all social classes, religion, races, and age groups. However, we hope that with these kind of initiatives, women in our country will be encouraged to stand up and decide not to tolerate any form of abuse. We also hope that men will be encouraged to seek help when faced with difficult situations rather than to resort to violence. We as women of Gauteng remain hopeful that the Republic of South Africa will be a better place to live in. As the MEC of Gauteng Department of Social Development, I'm glad to host my colleagues in the fight against GBV and all forms of oppression against women and children. I welcome Advocate Shamila Batohi, Director of NPA in South Africa, Neping Kekana, the Deputy Minister of Communications, General Kehla John Sithole, the National Commissioner of South African Police, Mr. Tshepo Mokoena, the founder and chairperson of MOTHER, Mayor Matshidiso, the GBV survivor, and Dade Patrick Shahi, a rehabilitated GBV perpetrator. A special greetings to all the viewers at home and all the families who have lost their loved ones due to GBV. I thank you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mokhethi, for your opening address. Our next speaker is the reformed and rehabilitated perpetrator, Honorable Patrick Shahi.
I think I'll speak from a position or perspective, a reformed perpetrator and rehabilitated perpetrator. But I'll also want to focus my conversation here on the impact of gender-based domestic violence on the children who are continually exposed to violence in their homes and what this can do to them. I also want to start by saying, as a former perpetrator of gender-based violence, I will forever be extending my deepest, humble, sincere apology for what I had done in the past. I cannot erase the deep pain that I've caused my wife and the country and my countrymen and my community, my family. I cannot. I may be and I am reformed, but the pain that I've caused, I cannot erase it. But I want to say I'm happy with the values that I have come to embrace now and the campaigns that I'm running to help curb the perpetuation of gender-based violence and focusing on Majita to say, make that call before you raise your fist. Make that call before you pick up that knife. Make that call for help before you pick up a gun and shoot and kill a woman. There is help out there. I am the embodiment of change, and change must begin with you. We cannot attain change by only being out there in the public spaces, in our marches, in our campaigns. And I'm not denouncing those campaigns. I'm saying they serve a purpose. But as a country, what we need to know is that gender-based violence starts at home. So the campaign must be focused at our homes. Education on GBV must take place in our homes. We as men must take responsibility and say we are going in our pursuit for change. We're going to start with ourselves. There is no reason for Ndate Tsepo and I and the myriad of men to march to Pretoria. We have to march as men to our hearts. We have to march to our minds. We have to march to our souls. It is our souls, our minds and hearts that we need to change. And only you as a man, you know exactly what is it that you need to change and that which you must change. While we march, we must also have conversations with one another and asking each other, are you really changed? Or are you just marching here as a cover? Because half the time I find that while we're marching, some of those of us who are marching, some of those who are in advocacy have not admitted to having violated the right of a woman. we tend to think the violation of a woman's rights happens only when there is physical violence, and sadly, only when the woman's body is found lying dead. And that is the time when we light up candles. That is the time when the media will speak. That is the time when we are riled into streets and say all these kind of things, but only to say them again and again and again. I would love to see in this country, in our campaigns, I would love to see, Bratsep, that maybe by next year, we have at least 50 men who are saying, we have changed. We were perpetrators. We saw it was wrong. We are now committing to fighting gender-based violence. We know the triggers. We have the curriculum. It cannot be left to the cops and the MECs and the country and the president and all the money that they're putting out there to curb gender-based violence. We, Majida, we know. And we know our friends who are committing acts of violence against women. And I will say, it does not start with a fist. It starts with a thought. What we think of them when we see women. I shall submit there, but I want to say all of us here, we have and are committed to eradicating gender-based violence. And I say change begins with you. The match must be a match to yourself as a man. The conversation must be a conversation with you as a man. Seek to be a human being and seek change. Create a safe environment for our women today, not tomorrow. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shahi. I hope lots and lots of men will change. Over the years, our country has been deeply traumatized by acts of extreme violence perpetrated by men against women and children. Our next speaker is a survivor and a motivational speaker who actually wrote a book. Her name is Tidin Chabeng.
My name is Tidin Chabeng. I'm an author, motivational speaker, and a trauma counselor. I am one amongst many South African women who survived abuse. I survived a near-death incident that left me immobilized for months. Hence, I wrote the book, The Journey of My Life. What was subtitled, What Was Meant to Kill Me Made Me Stronger. In 2009, 2 years after my divorce, I met this guy whom I thought was my soulmate. We had so much in common. Little did I know that he was a wolf in a sheepskin. I don't know which demon went into him. All was smooth and peachy until on the 7th month of our relationship, I found out that he was cheating and had impregnated somebody. To cut the long story short, I ended up the relationship because of that. He did not take rejection well. He told me that if he can't have me, no one will. I was not aware that he was planning evil during our separation. On the 18th of October 2010 at about 10 p.m., I was chilling with my sister. She was just about to leave my cottage when Mr. X grabbed her hand and had a gun on the other hand. I had never seen him with a gun. I was not even aware that he has one. Because of shock and fear of the unknown, I ran to my bedroom and closed the door. He kicked the door open and fired the first shot, as per my sister. I really had a blackout. My brains shut down. To date, I cannot tell whether I was first shot in the head or in the abdominal. Seeing me lying on the floor, surely he thought I was dead. So to clear the evidence, he tried to shoot my sister. By the grace of God, the bullet missed her. He ran out of the cottage after hearing my mother's cry for help. That's how my sister survived. The worst could have happened. Sadly, later that night, he killed the younger sister to the other girlfriend. I was told that I was already gasping when paramedics arrived. It is by the grace of God that I survived. I was in trauma unit for 3 weeks. I couldn't write my own name. I had dyslexia. I couldn't see, I couldn't speak, I couldn't walk. To date, my left ear can't hear properly. I have a shower sound on my left ear ever since I was shot. By the way, I still live with a bullet in my head. According to the doctor's report, the bullet hit the cerebellum bone and it is stuck there. They couldn't take it out. It would have caused major damage. It affected my nerves, which affected my eyesight, balancing, speech, hearing, and mostly my left side. I still battle with my left hand to date. I cannot carry, I am unable to carry any heavy stuff. I am unable when I'm stuck in traffic also. It is a battle. It's a chaos. I have those, my feet were lamb, and I have those, dinality kind of. I had dyslexia. I couldn't write my own name. I was told by one doctor that I would never walk again. He said I should apply for disability grant. I wonder where would I be had I listened to his report. I thank God for giving me the fighting spirit. I'm not just walking, I am running. I remember almost 2 years later in March 2012, I ran in Pumalanga, I ran 12K after being told that I would never walk again. I give glory to God alone that I'm here before you narrating my story. It is only by His grace that I survived. Many didn't. I was once a victim, but now I'm a victim. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sidin Chabeng, for your bravery and sharing of your story. Our next speaker is the Deputy Minister of Communications and Digital Technology, Honorable Bingi Kekal.
Advocate Shamila Batohi, our National Director of Public Prosecution, General Kehlas Tole, our National Commissioner of the South African Police Service, Dr. Nomathemba Mokgethi, MEC for Gauteng for Social Development, actor and reformed perpetrator turned activist, Mr. Patrick Shahi, our gender-based violence survivor, Ms. Sidin Chabeng, our program director, Mr. Tshepo Mokoena, who is the founder and chairman of Moving Ahead Development Agency and the anchor to the late Karabo Mokoena, whom we are here to remember today. Ladies and gentlemen, the advent of digital technology has significantly altered our lives, and when it relates to activism, it equally relates to perpetration. Digital technology has enriched the traditional forms of advocacy and added new methods insofar as the progression of gender equality and human rights, changing the very nature of it, enabling direct advocacy through social and online networks, which are a formidable instrument in the engagement of audiences. But, Program Director, all technologies have their own set of challenges, namely the authenticity and validity of reports. Efficient, low-cost, and innovative digital tools in terms of activism also, unfortunately, perpetuate abuse and risk safety. Information on social media and devices can be appropriated by governments officially and non-state actors unofficially for surveillance, collecting personal data, and intercepting communications, amongst others. Digital abuse spans trafficking and slavery to harassment, bullying, and online threats, especially against females and minors around the world, which sadly has become a staple to internet culture. South African law allows for the suspension or shutdown of websites if deemed so by the Internet Service Providers Association. However, no legislation or regulations specifically exist for social media platforms in South Africa. But, Program Director, regulation of social media is actually not the issue at all, as South Africa has extremely robust legislative framework when it comes to relative and relevant standpoints. And herein lies our capacity to fluently deal with these challenges. The Protection from Harassment Act of 2011 covers electronic as well as physical harassment. The Act speaks to sexual harassment, but it is important to note that other forms of harassment are equally damaging, and protection is available under the law if you are the victim of bullying or character sabotage. Through the Film and Publication Amendments Act, revenge pornography has also been legislated and criminalized. The Film and Publications Board has a facility to report child sexual abuse images, and through FPB's membership of In Hope, child sexual images in other jurisdictions are removed. An Ipsos 2020 report shows South Africa as having the highest prevalence of cyberbullying, with 54% of parents replying that they were aware of a child in their community who had been a victim of cyberbullying, an indication of a dismal societal state, to say the least. I want us to use today's memorial lecture to call on all South Africans to use the legislation and policy making that is created for us. Being a victim of gender-based violence myself, I'm passionate and committed to this fight from all aspects. My final comments, Program Director, are to the Mokoena family. You have taken events and moments in your family life that should have been your distraction. Instead, you have turned them into a monument of advocacy and impact to create a better world for others. As we immortalize the memory of Karabo Mokoena, I wish to say, may her soul rest in continued peace, and may another young woman remain safe today because of the work you are doing. Thank you for inviting me and making me part of this memorial lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Our next speaker is the National Commissioner of South African Police Service, Honorable General Khetla Sithole, who will share more about the policing strategy on gender-based violence.
Thank you very much, Program Director. And also thank you very much as well for making Karabo's legacy to live. When we commemorate the lives of victims of gender-based violence and femicide such as Karabo Mokoena, we know that gender-based violence does not discriminate. Any person of any race, age, sexual orientation, religion, or gender can become a victim or perpetrator of gender-based violence. The current violence, abuse, and killing of women and children is at an alarming level. More women and girl children are raped and killed, in most instances by someone who they know, as the sad case of Karabo. The issue of gender-based violence and femicide has become a daily topic in all our conversations, and at all times, these acts are so gruesome that it causes shock and panic around those close to their victims and society at large. These incidents, when committed by a loved one or someone close to the victim, threatens the sense of safety of the victim, family members, neighbors, and community. Women and children continue to be exposed to a range of different types of violence and abuse, including sexual abuse. This continues to psychological abuse, physical violence, sexual exploitation, human trafficking, domestic violence, and harmful traditional practices, which exacerbate their vulnerabilities and point to the need for more comprehensive, multifaceted prevention and response measures. Just sharing a short progress, the SAPS in conjunction with the National Prosecuting Authority and the entire Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster is working tirelessly to ensure that perpetrators arrested for gender-based violence-related crimes receive the harshest punishment the criminal justice system has to offer. During the previous financial year, 2019-2030, 637 life sentences were meted out to 405 accused, and the units attained 75 life sentences against 51 convicted criminals from 1st April 2020 to 30 June 2020. During 2019-2020, Bongani Masugu, 32 years, was sentenced to a total of 695 years imprisonment, which included 20 years life imprisonment for rape, 1 life sentence for murder, 160 years imprisonment for 16 counts of rape, 390 years imprisonment for 26 counts of armed robbery, 140 years imprisonment for burglaries, and 5 years for kidnapping in Gauteng. In KwaZulu-Natal, Moses Mavela, 27 years, received 32 life imprisonment sentences and 445 years in jail after he was found guilty of 32 counts of rape, 27 counts of robbery, and 2 of attempted rape. Also in Gauteng, Benito Silimane, 26, was sentenced to 20 life imprisonment for rape, 105 years for armed robbery, and 60 years for possession of an unlicensed firearm. Busise Ndlovu, 28, was handed down 16 life imprisonment sentences for rape, 183 years imprisonment, broken down as follows: 50 years for 5 counts of burglary, 45 years for robbery, 80 years for 10 counts of kidnapping, and 8 years for assault GBH. I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is just a few highlights that we're talking to that are coming out of the units we within SAPS, and of course working together with prosecution and as well as the criminal justice system. I thank you.
Thank you very much, General Chole, for sharing all the information with us. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the passion, and the patience to reach for the stars, to to change the world. National Director of Prosecution, Honorable Advocate Shamila Batohi, will deliver the memorial lecture. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me acknowledge the Deputy Minister on this platform, the MEC, the National Commissioner, Mr. Shahi, and most importantly, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Ms. Sidi Nchabeng, who is an inspiration, certainly I find, to me and to other women. And I want to thank you for sharing your story with other women. And Mr. Shahi, also, I want to thank you for standing up. And hopefully this is the kind of change that with people like you, we will be able to see the kind of change that we want to see with regard to this scourge. So this year we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action, as well as the 20th anniversary of the Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. And this is 20 and 25 years ago. So, perhaps this milestone offers us an opportunity to reflect on what we've achieved, and more importantly, on what still needs to be done. So firstly, let me acknowledge that there has been, important progress that has been made. Women have emerged as formidable leaders under the COVID-19 crisis. And it is so that, increasingly women are occupying important positions, more so in government. In our National Assembly, the representation of women has increased in 2019 to 46%, and that is 11% from the previous parliament. And South Africa has arguably one of the most gender diverse parliaments in the world. It ranks at number 3 in Africa and number 10 globally. So that in itself seems to be quite impressive. But as one goes beyond these encouraging numbers, one sees that women remain really underrepresented in other positions that come with a lot more or great deal of influence, one should say. And so, the statistics show that women comprise 32% of the Supreme Court of Appeal judges, 31% of advocates, 30% ambassadors, and 24% of executive heads of state-owned enterprises. And a July 2018 survey showed that women only represent 20% of those in senior management and executive levels. So, that was just by way of introduction, really, to say, women have been, insofar as positions, there have been some progress that has been made in this regard. So, and, as we reflect on this, on the status of women, and ultimately on the quality of life of women in South Africa, we are faced with an appalling picture, with violence and abuse of women and children overshadowing everything else. More concerning is our what appears to be our inability to wrench ourselves beyond the historical and social dynamics that seem to lock us or imprison us in this culture of patriarchy, power, and violence. An author and a social activist, Ms. Pogrebin, said, "When men are oppressed, it's a tragedy. When women are oppressed, it's tradition." And where are we today? We are facing, as others have recognized, a war on women and children. And looking at these statistics, the stark reality is that every 3 hours, a woman is murdered in South Africa. According to these statistics, 2,771 women and 1,014 children were murdered in the 2018-19 financial year. an average of 2 children and 7 women killed every day. Yes, every day. So by the time we end the seminar today, there is likely going to be a couple of women that have been killed today. And this, in the same period, we had 41,000, just over 41,500 rapes that were recorded by the police. So an average, and this includes children, an average of 114 cases every day. 114, I repeat, every single day of rapes of women and children. And as I said, we know that this is a recorded number. We know that this amount is far higher because of the fact that there's underreporting due to various factors such as stigma, ostracization, and fear. And so, we are really facing a war against women and children. So, let me talk a little bit more about the fact that conviction rates are improving. We are in about the year 2000. We had a conviction rate of sexual offenses of around 48%. And it's improved to around just over 70.1% to be precise in the 2015-16 financial year, and to the 2019-20 financial year to 75.2%. So that's the conviction rates. But I'm going to just now talk to the difference between conviction rates once a case enters the system and conviction rate vis-a-vis the reported matters, which are the crime statistics that I mentioned earlier on in this presentation. So those are conviction rates. And then the sentences, which the National Commissioner went into a sufficient detail on. And, the number of life sentences or imprisonment between 20 and 25 years is constantly increasing, and it increased by around 3.1% from the 2018-19 year to the 2019-20 financial year. And the National Commissioner has given statistics which I'm not going to repeat, but these long sentences that are meted out in 2019-2020 period, it was just short of 30% of all cases, or all convictions, all sentences, should I say. And so, that is, and I'm not talking about the 10 to 20 year. This is over 20 years to life. And so that is a significant percentage of cases that receive very high terms of imprisonment. And so, this, one can say this is a positive outcome, because often there's a cry for higher sentences in our courts, but these are being meted out, and it's in line. We have minimum sentence legislation, and this legislation was enacted because we wanted to send a strong message to perpetrators that if you perpetrate these crimes, there will be very severe sentences. And so we are seeing this increase in sentences. But the reality is the crime statistics are not coming down. And, I said, the conviction rates in the courts are high, as I mentioned now, 75%. But when one looks at the conviction rate, and this is an important issue, when one looks at the conviction rate with regard to the number of reported cases, not the cases that, it's with regard to the number of those women that decide, that have the courage and go to the police station to make a report. When one looks at those figures and compares it to the conviction rate, then it is only 10.5% with regard to rape of those reported cases that result in a conviction. And so one has to look at what happens to cases from the time the reports are made at the police station until they are brought to the courts. And the general talked about some of the issues that are some of the initiatives that are being put in place in order to ensure that, to try to get this percentage higher up, because this is a frightening and unacceptable statistics. that 10.5% of rape cases, reported matters, result in justice in the sense of a conviction at the end of the day. And so, there's a lot that's going on, but a hell of a lot more that needs to happen to really ensure that the percentage with regard to women that come in to report cases and the final conviction rates increases from the 10.5 that it currently is. So, it's also, the criminal justice system serves as the last port of call. It is reactive. And so, it is absolutely critical that we take a holistic approach in terms of, a strategy that has a package of services that is aimed at eliminating sexual and gender-based violence, that reaches every household and every community. We need to actually have prevention programs. We need to look at supporting actions that deal with parenting, that prevents violence in homes and in schools. And the question really is, the sad reality is that the perpetrators of many of these crimes, statistics have shown, are known to the victims, particularly when it comes to children, but not exclusively. They are a large percentage, they're not strangers. They're likely to be family members, relatives, friends, acquaintances, current and former partners. And so if these are people that are known to the victims, why? What is happening to the moral fabric in our society? What do we need to do? It was one of our speakers earlier on that talked to values, that talks to issues of respect. Are we teaching these values in our schools, in our universities? What are we teaching people? Are we simply teaching people to learn a skill so that we go out into society and we can earn money and make a living? But are we teaching people about how to live? How do we actually live as moral, ethical, respectful members of society? Is there any course that teaches us that? And so maybe we need to really look at proactively what is being taught in our schools, what is being taught in our universities. And we really, maybe the curricula needs to be changed to include something that talks to how do we change the moral fabric of our society. The ultimate justice for women and children is when they will be able to enjoy their human rights. They can walk freely. They do not have to live in fear of being violated and killed. And the sad reality in this, we are dealing with women and children issues. But the reality is, this is the lived reality, the lived realities of people in South Africa. It was one of our, dealing with the issue of the scourge of violence against women and children. One of our earlier speakers said, every action begins with a thought. And that is so. Every action. So how do we change the thinking? Because that's where the problem is. The problem is in the thinking in society. And so we need to have a way of changing those thought processes so that they don't translate into these violent actions in society. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a long way to go in dealing with this scourge. In the criminal justice society, in the criminal justice system, we will continue, as a national commissioner very eloquently said, we will continue to fight this fight to ensure that we do what we have to do. The system at the moment is failing the victims. We are not doing enough. We need to do a lot more within the criminal justice system so that so that we are all properly trained, properly skilled, and that we increase the conviction rate with regard to the reported cases. So you have women and children have the commitment that we are doing everything that we can. But as I said, the ultimate justice for women and children will be when they are able to really enjoy their human rights. And therefore, we need to go beyond the criminal justice system. We need to look at the preventative measures. We need to look at what is happening in our society. How can we change that so that these cases don't even come into the criminal justice system? So, colleagues, there's a lot of work to do, but we stand together with all of you to hope that, to really try to change this picture in the not too distant future. We have a lot of work to do, but together, hopefully, we will change so that women and children can enjoy the human rights and the freedoms that they so justly deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malume Mukwena, for allowing us to be part of the memorial lecture of Karabo Mukwena, Your Needs. We also thank you for directing the program of today. Mr Shahi, thank you very much for your courage and coming out today and encourage other men to stop the killing of young women and children. Aus Masidiso Nchabeleng, thank you for coming out and say, I am here, I quote, I am here, I am a survivor of GBV, and encourage our women to come out and speak out on GBV, close quote. Our Deputy Minister, Honorable Pinky Kekana, on how the technology can help us to reduce GBV in our country. General Tate Kesha, thank you for giving us hope that we are going to be safe as women in our country and that the perpetrators will get a heavy sentence. To all the MMCs from different municipalities, thank you for taking time to be part of this program. To Advocate Batohi, words of encouragement, on dealing with the scourge of GBV in our country. Thank you very much for prioritizing the issues of women in your department. To all other partners, mothers, SAPs, NPA, NGOs, and NPOs, and members of the media, thank you very much. And lastly, to all South Africans for taking time to listen to us. Thank you. Siyabonga. Bayadanki ralemo.